Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Bullet from My Valentine, self-titled Bullet from My Valentine, out November 5th on Spine Farm Records. This album has 10 tracks, 48 minutes in length, and this is the band's 7th full-length studio album. They are a Welsh metal band. Now, this record at first glance feels a little bit like a celebration of the past. When you look at a self-titled record, it normally comes with that connotation, but also when you look at a song like Parasite, the opening track, it has this knob moving the radio stations, and you're getting different songs from Bullet from My Valentine from their vault. So because of that, it really gives you a sense of a blast from the past. But at the same time, it really feels like they're also shedding a skin and they're leaving that behind, and they're opening new doors and starting new chapters. So this is a record that doesn't just connect the past, but it really shows you the past, but always looking towards the future. So an album that's going to be a transition album perhaps for the band. Once you look at the structure, this is a roller coaster ride through and through. I mean, ups and downs, peaks and valleys. It never stays still. It never stays flat. It never stays linear. Very balanced as far as the quality is concerned. The strength that you get at the beginning of the record is the same strength you're going to get all the way through. It's not one of those albums that starts to lose some steam. It starts to lose some power as you get deeper in it. The last tracks on the record are as strong as the opening tracks on the album. So really balanced, ups and downs, ebbs and flows. A record that lives off of the quality of the individual songs, and that's undeniable. These are 10 singles. They could have picked any song to be a single. That's the strength that the record has. But having said that, it's not an album that's broken. These songs have a sense of continuity. They have a red line that connects them and allows the strength of the individuality of the songs to then permeate and create strength of the collective. This is a very strong album all around. You can enjoy it by listening to individual songs. You can enjoy it by listening to the collective from beginning all the way to the end. This album is strength regardless of how you approach it. Once you get into the soundscape, this is a heavy record. I don't think you can tippy-toe around it. This is a very heavy album, and that becomes the common denominator all the way through. And it's not like they threw in 4 or 5 songs that are super heavy and blended them in with some lighter tracks just to give an appearance of an overall heaviness as far as the record goes. No, this album is heavy through and through, is heavy across every single song. Even tracks that perhaps don't feel as heavy or don't sound as heavy because they may have more of a methodic approach, they gain volume, and the volume replaces the heaviness, so it makes the song still feel like they have the same outcome. They still have the same motor, they still have the same drive, even though perhaps they're not as heavy all around as some of the previous songs. So really well designed. This also creates more of an up and down feel, changing the perception of the listener, but still keeping the listener connected and grounded on a record that really offers a nice continuous path from start all the way to the finish. And the soundscape of this album is really robust from that perspective. I like the fact that this is a heavier album, an album that brings a little bit of raw and gritness to it, brings the live side of the band into the studio. This really feels like a live album almost. That's how raw, how gritty, how heavy it is. But at the same time, it doesn't muddy the waters. It's not one of those heavy albums that becomes really hard to determine what's happening with the guitars, what's happening with the bass, what's happening with the drums, what's happening with the vocals, because sometimes that heaviness starts to kind of it starts to spread across every single element, and it's really hard to tell where is it coming from, what is creating it. So this album does have that pendulum of heaviness swinging all the way, but at the same time you can still appreciate all the individual elements, what are they doing on their own lane, and then obviously bringing them together and see that the drums are doing this, the guitars are doing this, and then in parallel they're creating this robust motion within the song. So a very well-rounded record, a record that has great sound, great execution. Like I said, it feels live because it's very raw, but very powerful at the same time. Very well defined. All the areas of this album, you could feel all the different shapes within this record as far as the sound goes. So a very well crafted, very well executed album all around. Within that sound, I felt like there were 2 pillars on this record doing perhaps 2 different things. You have the drums and bass on one side, and then you have the guitars on the other. The drums and bass almost take a secondary role throughout this record. Sometimes they do come a little bit more into the forefront and they push the envelope, but more often than not they're there as a supporting actor, as a supporting cast, creating a foundation, creating the baseline of everything else that's going to happen, and allowing the guitars to be very dynamic, very raw, very gritty, very driven. Most of the heaviness is really coming from the guitars. This is a guitar-driven album. I don't think you can deny that. The drums and bass are there to support those guitars, to give them a platform in which they can shine, obviously helping with the overall heaviness, but perhaps pushing them a little bit more into the forefront. And then it's all about the guitars. The guitars are the fuel that's been thrown into the fire as far as this album goes. They dictate the direction of the songs. They dictate the atmosphere, where you're going, where you're taking the listener. The guitars are the lifeline. They are the heartbeat of this record, undeniable. As far as vocals goes, I like the diversity, but perhaps most important than diversity in terms of having clean, harsh backup vocals, choirs, more important than all of that is how they work with one another. The symbiosis between these elements becomes one of the key characteristics as far as the vocals are concerned throughout this record. I felt like they came in always at the right time, understanding not just the sound of the track, the emotion that drives that song, what is that sound creating as far as atmosphere, and where are the lyrics coming in. So understanding this dynamics, then you can better place your vocal style in order to enhance not just the lyrics, but enhance the overall experience. And that's exactly what happens throughout this album. They always come in exactly when you would expect them, with the exact right approach, with the exact right tone, in order to make a song that's already great feel even greater. So great vocal performance all around. I really enjoyed the diversity, but perhaps more so the symbiosis between them. Overall, this album is going to hit with fans from the past, fans from the present, and it's going to bring new fans into the future of Bullet for My Valentine. This is one of their strongest releases in recent memory. Very strong album all around. And I'm not saying this just because it's a heavy record and I wanted a heavy album and I wanted guitar solos on this record. Not because of that, but because of the overall execution. The design, the plan, how they executed the album, how connected this album is, still keeping those songs very strong as individuals, but connecting them throughout the record, allowing the album to be one that you want to listen from beginning to end and not just pickpocket the ones that kind of speak more to you. So this album is strength through and through, magnificent record, and if this is a glimpse into what the future of Bullet for My Valentine is going to be all about, I'm all in, because this record is magnificent. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with my Reverie, a song that has a calm intro. It builds into it. You start to ease yourself into this song. Then the drums come in, very heavy drums, and then you feel like the drive and the heaviness is taken by the guitars. The guitars kind of take control of the situation and start to dictate where you're gonna go. The track has ebbs and flows, ups and downs. It doesn't stay linear at all. The verses bring you down, and then the chorus lifts you up. That's kind of the dynamic that this track has. The two are very different. They're worlds apart. I felt like the verses were more methodic. I don't want to go as far as to say melancholic, but definitely more methodic. And then the chorus is more explosive. It has more power. It has more substance. You're going to see that musically and vocally. You add to that a chorus that's very catchy, that's very hooky, something that you're going to see actually throughout the entire record. This is a very hooky album all around, and this song really represents that well, where you can marry two different aspects, a more methodic aspect with a more heavy and explosive aspect, put in a hooky chorus into the mix, and you have a song that's an absolute banger. It has an outstanding solo as well. I felt like the solo was really throwing gasoline into the fire because it made the song feel so metal. It made the song feel so heavy, so powerful. The solo had a little bit of an old school vibe to it, but it fit perfectly with the design, with the construction, and with the overall execution. Next, you have Can't Escape the Waves. This song also has a very nice build-up, but it moves a little bit different. This is a track that has rawness to it. It feels gritty at times. The chorus is a little bit bigger, but not that much bigger from the verses. This song doesn't have that clear-cut divide where one is down here and then the one jumps over there. There is a slight change between one and the other. The song becomes not necessarily heavier in the chorus, but it gets a little bit bigger. And that is pretty much the inflection point that happens between one and the other. But overall, the song stays very consistent. It stays very tied up. It loses some of its heaviness at times, and then it gains a little bit more volume here and there. But it's a track that overall never feels super heavy, even though there are some pockets of heaviness here and there. It almost feels like a stretch out ballad or a softer song, if you will, with some pockets of heaviness here and there, just to kind of keep you connected, keep you moving, and connect the track with everything that came before and everything that comes after. A very important element when you're looking at the overall design of this album. Last but not least, Paralysed, one of the last tracks on the record, and this song proves the point that I said earlier, that this album is balanced. The strength of the beginning is the strength all the way through to the end. When you have a song like Paralysed, almost finishing off the album, it tells you everything that you need to know. One of the heaviest songs, if not the heaviest song on this record. From the start, this is pedal to the metal from the start. The drums are heavy, the guitars are heavy, the vocals are heavy. Everything is heavy, intense, high octane throughout. The levels of intensity move from 10 to 11, back to 10, back to 11, but they're always super high all the way through. A song that just has a lot of aggression as well built in. The aggression comes perhaps a little bit more across, at least it's better defined around the vocals and the vocal style and the vocal approach. The clean vocals push themselves into the chorus, allow the chorus to be a little bit softer, but it doesn't lose the heaviness musically. It loses a little bit of power and strength vocally, but not musically. This allows the song to have a sense of ebbs and flows without having to change too much and without having to take away so much of the heaviness of the song, which would kind of break the track. And it would take actually the song from its original path. So I really love this track. I really love how it's built, how it's put together. The harshness of the vocals in the verses create that divide, that ebb and flow when you compare it to the clean vocals in the chorus. An absolute banger. Like I said, one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest track on this record. This is it. Bullet from My Valentine, self-titled record. Out November 5th on Spinefarm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.